All right, oh, we do have one here, good. All right, so now 5x minus 20y. All right, so now I'm going to start with that y. Move that over. Now divide by negative 20. Divide by negative 20. So y, and this is the switch now, because we're dividing by negatives here. And what do we get? It's positive 1/4 x. All right, so let's find the slope. It's 1/4, and the b is 0, because there is none. That's easy. It's crossing 0. And its rise of 1. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, it's a broken line because it doesn't have equal, it's just greater than. So now I just draw my best broken line between that. Okay, shading is this is greater than, remember it switched. Greater means you're shading upwards. And negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, negative 1's right there. Okay, it happens to be on the line. It's not equal to, so it's no. If I had the little equal, if it's that sign with the equals, it would be yes. It's not. Because it's allowed to equal the line. Okay, so now write an inequality equation given the graph. Okay, now we're going backwards. So with this, what we have to do is we have to go back to our grade 9 and 10 days, and because we know it's a line, it comes from this mx plus b form. Okay, so we want to write an equation. So we have that in our brain from grade 9 and grade 10. So what is the y-intercept? Well, it's right there. So we know it's 2. Now I just do a rise over run situation. So I can pick points. So I'll pick that point and that point. So there's my little rise is 2. And it runs 1, 2, 3. So there we go. So once I have those two parts, it's pretty easy. Now, I know it's going to be y, I don't know what that is yet, so let's put a circle there. And it's going to be 2/3 x plus 2. And I knew it's a positive slope because it was going up to the right. Now, how do I find out my inequality sign? Well, I know it's got to be between this one and that one, because it's a broken line. So, is the shading going down or going up? Well, it's going down, so it's less than. So that one. There. Oh, less than, sorry. So I pick that's greater than. I don't pick that one, I pick the less than sign. So y is less than, and there is our answer. Okay. So let's try this one. Okay, so let's go to our y equals mx plus b. So where is it crossing? It's crossing at -1. So b is -1. And the slope, okay, so the slope is another point. There's my triangle, it's a rise of 2, 1. So it's 2 over 1, which is 2. And that's downright negative, so it's -2. So now I go y, -2x minus 1. Now what am I going to put in here? What inequality sign? So I know it's between these two because it's a solid line. And the shading is going up, so it's greater than, so it's that one. So that is the equation of that inequality. Okay, here is a inequality in a word problem. So suppose you're constructing a tabletop using aluminum and glass. The most that you can spend on your material is $50. Laminate glass costs $60 per meter square, and the aluminum cost $1.75 per foot. You can choose the dimensions of the table and amount of material used. Find all the possible combinations that you can do. All right, well, first thing we've got to look at is when we see this word problem is how much we can spend. So the most we can spend is $50. So right off the bat, I know it's going to be that. Okay, the most we can spend. And I'm allowed to spend $50. So let's go to the equal sign. So remember, this is your spending. That's your spending. And my spending's got to be less than 50 or equal to 50. Okay, what are we spending money on here? What's the spending? Well, we have your X represents the glass, so that's 60. And your Y represents the aluminum, which is 175. So those two added together have to equal that. So there's my expression. Okay, now we just work it down till we get into Y equals. So I move that over. So we get to there, divide by that 1.75, get to there, and just leave it in fraction form. Type it into our calculator and we get that. So there's all kinds of solutions we can have, as long as they slide into that purple area. Something you got to watch out for when I'm marking is you got to label your X and your Y axis. Tell me what they are. Okay? Okay, topic 2 is dealing with quadratic inequalities with one variable, just X. So with this here, we are going to do a couple of things here. One is we're going to take the function, make sure it's the zeros on one side. Sometimes you have to move a number over. Get the 0 there. We are going to either graph it to find the x-intercepts, or we can do our factor. So let's, in this case, factor. So two numbers that multiply to 3 and add to that, so it's 3 and 1, and it's minus and plus. So I have 3 and negative 1. So mark those on your sketch. Okay, those are very, we call critical points of the graph. So now we know it's a happy face. We did that. So we draw a nice happy face going through those points. We could get the intercept. The y-intercept is negative 3. That's important. That doesn't come in the answer though. So now, this is what we do. We look at the function, because the functions are going to be, there's 4 situations. So the function, the f of x, it's either going to be greater than 0, or it's going to be greater than equal to 0, or the function is going to be less than 0, or the function is going to be less than equal to 0. So you're going to get one of those scenarios. So the function is for quadratic. So in our case, we have this scenario. Okay, so we have our function, which is x squared minus 2x minus 3, and it's less than and equal to 0. So less than, so these two right here, so this one, and this one, this is where you shade the parts of the curve below the 0 line. Okay? And this one would be these two, because it's greater than equal to, is above the 0. Okay, so once you get those, it's pretty easy. So I just get out my highlighting pen, and this is a below question. This is the one I'm dealing with. So I shade those parts. Okay? So those are the parts. So I know my answer lies between that one and that one. That's where my shading is between. See this part over here, there's nothing over here that's shaded coming down. So in math, we call that's a between math. That's our notation for between. So we pick the small number, which is -1, and we pick the large one, which is 3. Now the question has a line on the bottom, so make sure your answers match. So there is my answer for that question. All right? So the other scenario is we take this function, we graph it, we get its roots. Okay, it's a happy face. So there's the happy face. Okay. Now, we're shading, this is greater than, which means above the 0. Okay, so there, shade there, shade there. Now I call these rockets, okay? So I know this rocket is going slowly to the left. So this arrow matches this arrow. And you put -3, so there's a solution for that. And this rocket, you can't say up, because that's y. It's slowly going to the right, so the arrow is going to the right, so x, the arrow to the right is 2. So look at the question, no line, why no line? So it's not equal to. Okay, so those are my solutions. Okay, so we have this function, all right? There's a function, so there's the f of x, and it's greater than 0, so I know I'm shading above 0. So let's keep that in mind, okay? Now we have to use our calculator probably to do this, or we can do triple play. So let's just do triple play, because we should be good at triple play. And we have 2 times 3 is -6. And we get 6 and 1. It's not going to factor. So it's going to be an ugly one. So it's going to be, well, let's just make it up. It's going to be something small. So let's get our calculator out and find the roots. So we get 6 and 1. And we need to get -7, so they both have to be negatives. So for that to work, I'm just going to make this a positive, because I don't feel like getting decimals using my calculator. So I'm going to change it to that. That means that has to be negative. Okay, so that makes life a little easier. So now, -1 times -6 is +6, and -6 and -1 is -7. So now I can divide that out. So that's 1/2, and that's 3. Okay, so what do we got? 1/2, it's right here, and 3. All right, and we know it's a happy face, so it's something like this. It's coming down, it could be a lot. The vertex could be a lot further down. All right, so now, make sure you mark those. Those are parts of your answers. Write them in. Important. Okay, now, where are we going to shade? Well, I made that inference at the beginning. We're shading above 0, so we're shading that section and that section. Those are the sections. So it's not a between, it's the rockets. So we know it's x, and this rocket is slowly going that way, so the arrow is that way, and it's at 1/2. And this one is x, and the rocket's slowly going to the right, so there's the arrow head matches. And it's at 3, and I look at the question, no line, no line. So those are my answers. All right, so let's move on.